Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and bishops of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Salutations to the prophets, beloved teachers who continue to exhort the sheep in these last days. This epistle is going to be entitled The End of Cash. The End of Cash. No more monopoly money circulating in the economy will come about fairly soon. As we can see, the escalating tensions rise over in the east, and little disturbances here and there in the U.S. and different states causing calamities, which ultimately is going to bring about martial law and the final collapse of the U.S. economy, not having any more U.S. power in the U.S. Reserve, using cash. Even gold and silver is not going to back you up, which is ultimately going to bring about the beast system, the full total totalitarian surveillance system, the implementation of the FRID chip, which is going to be mandatory for you to be put into your body. You're going to be mandated to put a foreign object in your body to continue to move about and to make purchases and to use this current economy. So the end of all cash is at the door. Can't give you an estimate, but everything is lined up in the scriptures according to prophecy for you to be watchful for these events to come into action, right? So the first book and verse I'm going to go into is found in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And it says, but of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night. So scripture says we do not know the time or day, but we are definitely watching because we know what seasons we are in. This is not a season for rejoicing and prosperity, but in fact is a season of war. A season of ever rising tensions and lawlessness and uproars of the people and all these things that are written within, right? For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh cometh as a thief in the night. So if we do not know the exact time to be watching for the second coming of our power, Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai, then we're going to be caught unawares in those snares and in those nets, right? So verse 3, it says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So these things are happening gradually. The door is shutting ever so slightly so it doesn't disturb the mass amount of people that continue to live in their folly, right? So it's quietly shutting. And as you see the prophets, the shepherds and teachers giving you that warning, the trumpet is blowing loudly. We're telling you to come seek this wisdom, eat well while you can, so you can have your spirit woman built up for the times to come. Because no amount of material provision put aside is going to stabilize your mental and spirit that needs to be rock steady to embrace the impact. So this is why the warning is going out, for you to receive the truth. There's many talking heads out there that are picking up the word of Yahweh, feeding you with lies and deceit, giving you those sweet words that you want to hear. But you have to receive both the bitter and the sweet. There's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of death. Scripture talks about a lot of death, and it talks about coming out of this system, stepping away from those who continue to partake within this system and will be caught unawares. No matter how much warning you give them or advise them of the things to come, some of them are going to latch on to this truth, and a lot of them are going to withdraw. They don't want to hear nothing what you have to say because it's fear-mongering, you're speaking hate, all these things. But it's a fair warning given unto you for you to receive and latch on to salvation. That's the ultimate reward for both parties involved. They receive your word, you receive a prophet's reward, and so on and so forth. Verse 4 of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 says, "But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief." So those who are watching and having our spirit man prepared for the onset of sudden changes will not be caught unaware and off guard, but will be on our watchtower, continuously watching, because we have detached ourselves from this world. You're not going to hear any of the elect talk about how we're going to reestablish ourselves in the new economy, buying Bitcoin and buying hard wallets and being partakers of this new system. But we have sacrificed ourselves and our times and our families and everything that we at one time held dear to us, so we can do this work, so you can receive it on the other end. Whether or not you receive it or not, give it a thumbs up or continue scrolling, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we are commanded to forewarn the masses, so the blood is not on our hands. And that's the chief principle of why we do things, and to receive salvation, right? So we can be covered by the blood of Yahushua when all these things consume the masses, right? We're going to go into Matthew 24, another prophetic book for the end times. Matthew 24. Matthew 24, 22. Matthew 24 and 22. For the last verse I read in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 4, he says, "For you, children, you will not be caught. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief," right? Not everyone's going to be fooled by what's going on. So Matthew 24 and verse 22, it says, "And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the sake of those days shall the days be shortened." So this is mercy, this is grace, that the Most High Yahweh is going to cause these judgments to be sped up for the sake of the elect. Otherwise, there'll be no flesh saved, because we are separating ourselves from the ways of this world. We don't care that all these things are taken from us. And whoever's in our lives, if they're taken too, because this is all the will of the Heavenly Father. We just want to be accounted worthy and blameless on the days of these oncoming judgments, so that way we receive salvation. And those that toss this word behind them and turn their nose up is ultimately rejecting salvation, because we're bringing out the 100% truth for you to stay locked in, so your spirit is built up, so you have that faith and hope to be redeemed, because the things that you put aside for yourself can ultimately be damaged, destroyed, stolen. It'll be a snare unto you, right? So for the sake of the elect, he will speed up these days. The book of Ecclesiastic is found in your Apocrypha, if you have one. Chapter 36 and verse 8 says, "Make the time short, remember the covenant, and let them declare thy wonderful works." So as the hopeful elect, as we watch the prophetic timelines itch closer and closer to the second coming of Yahweh Shai, we can see things speeding up, because ultimately in the midst of World War III now cranking up, it's ultimately going to cause a lot of other things to collapse as well. And we see that through the closing of the Hormuz, the Canal of Hormuz, I forgot the proper name for it, that it affects a lot of the merchandise going in and out onto all countries, right? And when these things start to slow up, it's ultimately going to push back the timelines of supermarkets and the whole economy being refilled and restocked for the customer ultimately to continue to go and get groceries and so on and so forth. So a lot of these shipping companies, they have increased the insurance on their shipments, on their vessels, because of the they expect to lose some of the shipment goods, so they're increasing their insurances, which ultimately is going to be put on those goods as well. So if you like to continue to purchase a particular soap or a particular dog food or any of these things, you can expect these prices to ultimately increase substantially, because they have to, the shipment companies have to make an account for products damaged in the midst of World War III. There was small vessels that was over there in the east, loaded up with, I don't know, explosives or something, and it was driving up to the shipping containers and exploding next to the shipping containers and causing them to have damage with a bunch of merchandise on it. So that is going to speed up things as well, because if those merchandises end up at the bottom of the Hormuz, they won't be able to be unloaded at the docks in these countries, which ultimately is going to leave the shelves bare, right? Next verse we're gonna go into is let me find it. These tags are a little wrinkly. Crapperoni. Bear with me, please. Maybe I'll write some new tags today. I'm trying to find Ephesians. Here we are. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 16. See then that you walk circumspectly, and not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. So, as things are happening, you're going to need someone to walk this out for you, so that way you are not caught unawares as well. And everything is within the scriptures and within the Apocrypha book for you to line up the spirit of prophecy and for the things to come. You're going to need someone to line these up for you. So I recommend that you lock in with the prophets and the teachers and the elders and the apostles and bishops of Great Millstone, so you can receive this word, because all these other false establishments, they're leading you into a world of hurt. I promise you that. I promise you that, because when these collapses start to happen, you want to make sure that you brace for impact and well versed in understanding, so you can be very mindful on how to be guided in these times, right? So I have Ecclesiasticus 39 next. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 verses 1. Right, so Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 verses 1 on down, it says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High Yahweh, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. So this is paramount, and this is the most important thing in our lives, is to receive this word. we're not going to be trying to hunker down the hatches, if you will, and build up and fortify ourselves, knowing that at any time we're called to be pilgrims on our earth. We're going to be sitting still while all these things and all these events are happening. So we are given our minds and our lives unto prophecy to be built up in the wisdom and understanding, so we're not caught unawares. Verse 2, he will keep the sayings of the renowned men, the prophets of old, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. Because the scriptures are written in a spiritual code that it can only be unlocked if you have the spirit of Hamashiach Yahushua dwelling within you, because then you have the mind of the Messiah to understand the language that's being used to be guided. It's not a very light thing to understand, so this is why we lock in and we dedicate the majority of our time to getting this understanding. Verse 3, he will seek out he will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men and appear before princes, just like Daniel. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. Verse 5, he will give his heart to resort early to Yahweh that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer and make supplications for his sin. So as we also build our understanding in the prophecies and understand the transgressions on how we went off, and understand the sins that may reside within us and what displeases our Father, we're also learning how to separate ourselves and be more in line with what is being said within the guidance here. Verse 6, when the great Yahweh will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sentences and give thanks unto Yahweh in his prayer. We will give our time and dedicate ourselves unto these dark parables and dark sentences, so we're not caught unawares, because we can see that the end of all things is approaching very rapidly, which will lead to a sudden event of things to happen, right? So the end of all cash is very nigh, and when those collapses happen, you don't want to be caught unawares to receive assistance from Egypt or any of the Babylonian soothsayers to ultimately lead to your destruction and anyone else you may have residing with you, right? So next verse, I'll grab Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22 and 29. Proverbs 22 and 29 says, seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. So with this wisdom, ultimately it comes with a certain level of responsibilities and gifts and blessings. There's going to be masses of people who have some level of understanding according to the Bible, but will need to be taught the appropriate way how to line everything up from them in these end times. And those that dismiss it, ultimately they will be cast aside and will not receive everlasting life. So this is a business for us who continue to push the plow to magnify our office and make our calling an election sure, right? We pray to be accounted worthy. We hope. We are prisoners of hope. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 7. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. We're to be very watchful and lock in, for these things are going to happen suddenly and speed up. And when things end up speeding up, we don't want to be unsure of the decisions that we make, right? Because the end of cash is nigh, as we can see the wars ramping up, which ultimately is going to lead to an all-out economic collapse as well. No more buying and no more selling unless you do take on that RFID chip that will be implanted in your left or your right hand, or any kind of implants that you put into your body to be a servant unto the beast system. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 5, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh power, and evil, and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come." Stark warning. Verse 7, "The morning is come unto thee, O thou that dwellest in the land. The time is come, the day of trouble is near, and not the sounding again of the mountains. Now I will shortly pour out my fury upon thee, and accomplish mine anger upon thee. And I will judge thee according to thy ways, and I will recompense thee for all thine abominations." Those that continue to worship other idols and serve other powers other than Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, you will not be covered by the blood of Yahweh Shai. He will pour out his indignation upon you for continuing not to hearken and reject his word. "And mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will recompense thee according to thy ways and thine abominations that are in the midst of thee. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh that smiteth." So when your calamities start to be poured out upon you, you will know very well that you are being judged, which is ultimately going to lead to your demise, because you are not properly repenting. You do not have a broken and contrite heart. You just worship him with your mouth, but your heart is far from him. And he knows this. He knows your very thought. He knows your very actions. He created you, either whether or not you be a vessel of honor or dishonor. Ultimately, you have the choice to walk this walk or not. Forgo it. Ultimately, it will be upon your own head. Verse 10 of Ezekiel chapter 7, it says, "Behold, the day, behold, it is come. The morning is gone forth, and the rod hath blossomed. Pride hath budded. Violence is risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them shall remain, nor of their multitude, nor of any of theirs, neither shall there be wailing for them." There will be no prayers lifted up for you. No tear will be shed for you, your family, your children, your dog, any of it. Because ultimately you will be considered and marked as the wicked and will not be reserved for salvation. Verse 12, "The time is come, the day draweth near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is upon all the multitude thereof." You will only have provisions in these times if it is according to his purpose for you to have those things. Otherwise, you will not be able to save yourself by gardening, by having a storehouse full of food. It doesn't matter how many beans, band-aids, and gun bullets you have. It doesn't matter. It's all going to be taken from you. You cannot save yourself. You cannot save yourself. You will be put out, blotted out. Verse 13, "For the seller shall not return to that which is sold, although they were yet alive, for the vision is touching the whole multitude thereof, which shall not return, neither shall any strengthen himself in the iniquity of his life." Right, because you're going about doing your own thing according to your own ways, leaning on your own understanding, thinking that because you have some survival skills or a prepper book and you have locked into a homestead community, that that's going to reserve you and prolong your life. That is not what's written. That is not what's written. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 14, "They have blown the trumpet, even to make all ready, but none goeth to the battle. For my wrath is upon all the multitude." Yes, you're hearing a warning. We're telling you to come and get this wisdom to be fed, to feed your spirit man, spirit woman for these times to come. But you continue to lack and go on about your own ways, thinking that time is going to be reserved just for you, but it is not. 15, "The sword is without, and the pestilence and the famine within. He that is in the field shall die with the sword, and he that is in the city, famine and pestilence shall devour him. Doesn't matter whether or not you live in the city, or you live in the country, or the suburbs, or you think you'll be safe in your own little area 30 miles away from all civilization, living in the woods. That's not going to save you. Ultimately, you will meet your demise, because this earth belongs to him, and the inhabitants within the earth has truly defiled it. They have not kept his ways. They do not fear him. They continue to live life in an unsecure way. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 16. But they that escape of them shall escape, and shall be on the mountains like doves of the valleys, all of them mourning, every one for his iniquity. Because this is about, the transgressions and sins that we have committed against the Father and not keeping his ways. We toss the law, statutes, and commandments behind us, and we don't observe them. We go and heap up folly and lies unto ourselves, thinking that we have a godly and righteous walk, but ultimately will be found out. Our skirts will be lifted up. Ezekiel chapter 7:17. All hands shall be feeble, and all knees shall be weak as water. They shall also gird themselves with sackcloth, and horror shall cover them, and shame shall be upon all faces, and baldness upon their heads. Right. Verse 19, the point. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is a stumbling block of their iniquity. Right. There will be nothing for you to rely upon. Nothing. You will not be able to rely on anything that you have other than building up on this understanding and wisdom, where he tells you to store up the things in heaven, where moths and thieves do not break in and steal. Do not store up for yourselves anything on earth, but store up yourselves this wisdom, right? Because the end of cash is on its way. What will you do when you can't buy or sell? And if you're not covered, you are naked. You will be found naked. Shame will be put upon you, right? We're going to go to the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate. The fish gate represents your ports, where they dock and unload, so that way shipments can now be brought across the country and then be stocked in your shelves and stores, depending on whatever state you're in. This is the fish gate, right? So I'll read it again. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. That economic collapse, right? I'm going to jump down. Verse 13. Therefore their goods shall become a booty, and their houses a desolation. They shall also build houses, but not inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. He says, as in the days of Noah were. They were building and planting and marrying and giving in marriage. They were in this prepper survival mindset of being prepared for the things to come. But the things that they have stored up for themselves will ultimately become a booty unto the righteous, because the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. They have relied on their own carnal understanding and their own manpower to do these things, but ultimately it will be left to the righteous. The Most High Yahweh would lead the righteous to caches, if you will. The righteous, those who are doing the word, don't have to worry about doing these things, because our faith is in our higher power, that he's going to lead us into all things, if it be our lot, we hope. They shall not build houses, but not inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. Verse 14. The great day of Yahweh is near, it is near, and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of Yahweh. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. Right, these mighty men, very proudful, little militias, with their basic training of war and all these things, they do not know that the Most High Yahweh is a man of war, an ancient wisdom that knows how to play this game that you like so much in war. The day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Thick darkness. I was going to read to 18. A day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against Yahweh. And their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. Right. Just because you may read out of the scriptures here and try to live the best life you can, it's not in accordance to his word. You are leaning on your own understanding and not repenting the appropriate way and receiving this word, but you reject the word. This is what he's saying. 18. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of Yahweh's wrath. Yeah, I see an influx of people now taking want to take advantage of buying silver and gold and playing the market and stuff like that, you know, building up false security and in those assurances, and it's not going to pay off. None of that stuff is going to be able to save you and procure your life, because what's the saying goes, if salvation was something one could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die. And we know that the scriptures, the gospel therein, is written to the poor, the forsaken, the ones that have no means to defend themselves, the outcasts of Yasharallah, the 12 tribes of Israel. We are at the very bottom of this wicked nation. For he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. He will speed up the times for the sake of the elect, those that put their faith and their hope in what was written therein, and that's our food. That's our food. This is our armor. This is our weapon of choice, right? I'm not going to go and practice kickboxing and takedown moves and being quick with a knife or fast on the draw with the carnal sword. No, I want to be able to, you know, use this as my defense. And you should too. Isaiah chapter 19. Isaiah chapter 19. The end of all cash. No more greenbacks. Isaiah chapter 19, 1 to 10. The burden of Egypt, behold, and Yahweh rideth upon swift clouds, and shall come into Egypt. Now, yes, this is referencing the ancient days of Egypt, but in this current day and time, we are in spiritual Sodom and Egypt, aka the good old US of A very proudful nation that disregards keeping the ways of Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai. They disregard it. They practice worshiping other deities and other false gods and calling on different powers for their salvation, showing reverence to them, but not him. So the burden of Egypt, behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. You'll have no reassurance in any of the things that you have put your hands to and worship. And I will set Egyptian against Egyptian, and they shall fight, every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Right. So when there is no way for you to go and purchase the provisions for your family, for your children, those friends at one time will now then turn on each other and become enemies, because now you have something that I need and I want, and I will do anything that I can to go and get those provisions for my children and disregard your life and the commands. This is what it's talking about. Egyptian versus Egyptian. Verse 3, the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. Yeah, they're going to receive all their worldly understanding via the news channels and all those talking heads, those wizards, those enchanters. They're going to tell you, we're doing great, we're bouncing back, we have full advantage now, and all these things, and that's going to cause false assurance in you because you're looking to those idols to bring you ease. This is what is being said here. Verse 4, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of the cruel, the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith Yahweh, and Yahweh of hosts. Right. All these patriotic people that continue to worship man and their president, he is ultimately going to bring down the fall of your beloved country, and he's going to rule over you with a very harsh and cruel hand, says Yahweh power. Right? Verse 5, and the waters shall fail from the sea, and the rivers shall be wasted and dried up. Right? You'll have no more reassurance that this system is going to be replenished with goods that you can afford. And they shall turn to the rivers far away, and the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up, and reeds and flags shall wither. The paper reeds by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. The fishers shall mourn, and they shall cast angle into the brooks, shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the waters shall languish. So there'll be no free-flowing economy. All those things that was a substance of one time, in those waters you'll have nothing. The waters will be found empty. They'll be dried up, right? Because in ancient times, the main survival method of the people of those times, they would encamp around waters and rivers, because they can go and get washed up, they can retrieve water to drink, they can go and get fish and to be sustained and things like that. But what happens when that river is dried up? There's no more commerce. There's no more source of life within that river. Cause and effect, right? Moreover, they that work and find flax, and they that weave networks shall be confounded. Right? No more retail. No more ways to get socks and underwears and gloves, and all these outlets will be cut off. There'll be no more. Verse 10, and they shall be broken in the purposes thereof, that all make sluices and ponds for fish. Right? There'll be no more storehouses or anything for you to get your provisions. Right? This is all substantiated also in the mighty book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 18. Man. Revelation chapter 18. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll make it to the point. Revelation 18, chapter 3, you can read that for yourselves. It says, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and all the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. This is all the merchants of the seas, all these other countries that have had an alliance with the U.S. of America. And now they see that ultimately there's going to be consequences. There's going to be consequences for conducting business with the great whore. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Right? They all made a very substantial amount of wealth off the backs of the people that they housed here illegally. Right? And would not come to that acknowledgement of. Furthermore, and I heard another voice saying from heaven, come out of her, my people. This is the 12 tribes of Israel, to now separate ourselves from the land of our captivity, right? were just a residue, a remnant of outcast individuals that was brought over here via the slave trade throughout the centuries, and have built up this nation off the sweat of our brow, and were forced to live at a very basic way of living here. There might be those that say, oh, well, this nation has afforded everyone with a great amount of avenues to build yourself up. It's about generational wealth. This is about things, an inheritance that was given to our ancestors, that was supposed to be in our family for generationally and an everlasting, but other nations have devoured us and stolen all of our resources to the point where now we have to go and buy something back that was already ours, right? We'll jump down to verse 10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torments, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buying their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold. This is now the other nations and countries realizing that they cannot have any more commerce in this country because of the ongoing wars that will ultimately lead to the collapse of the dollar, and we will not be able to do any more trade unless we partake in the new beast system that is on the rise. Verse 12 of Revelation 18, and then I'll close it up. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and of fine linen, and of purple and silk and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Right. So no more commerce will be allotted and or flourishing in a time of the great demise of this beast nation, because it is prophesied that the end shall come, and we are to make ourselves ready and to be separate from the mindset and the spirit of this abominable nation, for they shall surely drink of the cup of their fornication, for committing all these abominable acts against the children of Israel, first and foremost, and how they truly continue to live and to teach their children to do the same. So I pray this was edifying. Until the next time, Shalom.